Why did I lose faith in the American economy? Well, it was not recent. It had nothing to do with Trump or Biden or tariffs or anything. This actually happened quite a few years ago. But it's a pretty interesting story that I think, at bare minimum, will give you some laughs maybe. But it's a sadly true story. I'm not looking for sympathy though. But I'll tell it because I think it illustrates how the economy can work negatively, even if you do everything right. So I was a teacher and I bought a small house in a small town. It cost about $70K. So payments were low, everything was fine. It was actually a relatively nice house, in a decent area. But it was a small, isolated community. So this was in 2017. I bought it or something. Lived there a couple years, and then I got a job offer in another state. So I moved out of my house that I owned to, and I didn't own it fully, but I made payments, so I did have some credit in the loan and everything. And I moved for the job. I rented a place, but it was not great at all. In fact, I wanted out of that place as soon as possible. So I was like, I'll buy another house. I just sold one. I'll buy another one. It was also in a relatively isolated place, and relatively cheap. So I worked there for 3 months. I sell my house. Okay, house is sold because I'm planning on buying another house. Right, that's what you do because I don't have millions of dollars sitting around. I have to sell one house and then buy another one. And so I sold it. Slight profit, not much. And then that week, I got let go from my job that I had just moved to another state for. And I was stuck in a small town, no house, living in a bad situation, more or less. And I was like, I'll just find a new job or whatever. Well, that was easier said than done. And so then my wife got a job in a nearby city and we moved there. Started renting. I said, okay, well, we'll rent for a little while we move here. And then look around, I'll find a job and we'll buy another house. And, I got fired at the end of 2019. And I bet you can figure out what I'm about to say next. Then COVID hit, and finding a job became even more difficult. And housing prices, particularly where I moved, but also all over the country, doubled to the point where it was unaffordable for me to live anywhere but the fringes, outskirts of the city, and not great locations or housing. And even if I could find a place, they were snapping up by people with far deeper pockets, getting far, like I could get a normal loan, but no, they have people coming with better loans. I literally, after a while, we saved up and were ready to buy a house, a crappy house, way an hour outside of town. And then I put in an offer, full asking price, overpriced. And then they said, no, we got someone who's paying cash, and we don't want to deal with your loan. So, just to put you in perspective, housing in this country is the number one economic drag and driver, and the most in your face, affects your daily life thing. So it's huge, right? And with COVID and everything, that went terrible. And then you might be asking, well, they're building more houses. Well, they are, but they're all HOA community stick huts that they slap together and have no soul and are horrible and have holes. And if you've seen those home inspecting videos, you'll know what I'm talking about. This brings me to the other point, and I think that's my personal story about how I became disaffected by the economy and how it screwed me over, basically. Just bad luck after bad luck. I did everything right. Sell a house, get a new house, and then the market just blew up. With no warning, COVID came out of nowhere. I sold in like October 2019. I got fired, that week. They did the whole department, and so I got really screwed over there. But this leads me to the next point, which is immigrants. At the same time that COVID hit and everything, right after that, we got Biden, and we got 20 million new immigrants, and they all need places to live. So housing prices kept going up and up and up and up. Not for people to live in. Legal immigrants can buy houses, but they can rent, particularly houses that are bought by some guy who bought it and is doing cash rental, right? They can rent. So what kind of houses are being bought up? Normal, everyday houses are being bought up by the, not even that rich, just normal, low, like 1 million millionaires. But there's a lot of them, and they made a lot of money doing this. Some of them kind of lost their shirts. They went they drank the Kool-Aid a little too much. For instance, here, there was my wife needed someone to give her a ride, and this very nice illegal immigrant family gave her a ride. Blessings upon them, right? However, part of the thing is they lived in a very conveniently located place, closer than we did. Why? Well, they were willing to pay or whatever, but I wasn't living there because they were living there, right? There's a lot of things where, all these people need places to live, and that creates way too much demand, not enough supply, particularly of that kind of places. So normal Americans are forced by these HOA community junk, and the normal everyday houses that they would buy is being sold or rented out to illegals, basically. And other normal immigrants too. Just, we're not building enough housing, and we're certainly not building the correct housing. Part of that is also the city zoning and everything makes it very difficult and expensive to build anything. And even if you do build something, or you want to put a shed or a fence on your own property, well, you got to jump through hoops, right? It's not even worth owning at the end of the day anyways. But that is why Trump won, if you were wondering. Because there's a lot of people like me who, I don't hate illegal immigrants. I don't, many of them are very nice people, whatever. There's some that are criminals and whatnot, and, being able to track people who enter our country might be a good idea. But mostly it's this low-level but very affects your daily life integration into the economy. Also, you want more money and rights for the working class. Well, guess what? The working class just grew a lot larger and a lot more desperate via illegal immigrants, or more desperate and more numerous people of the lower strata of the economic system. So the poor got poorer, and it has nothing to do with hatred or anything. It's a bit side topic to it, right? It's about real world economics and how you can do everything right and still fail. This is in an apartment. I'm still renting, but I'm doing a lot better because I decided to not. If they're not going to play fair, neither will I. I won't do anything illegal, never have. But there's a lot of tricks of the trade. I decided, you know what? All these rich people, they live off the government. They do all these things. They this contract. This house. I bought it in a living trust, so I don't have to pay taxes and all sorts of crazy loopholes and things they do. So I said, you know what? I'm going to play the game with the rules set, even if it may be unheard of for a person of low income to even consider these options. I think that there's a lot of wiggle room. They made room for rich people to get richer. Well, guess what? If you're poor, you can sneak in that system too. That's the good news. You know, bankruptcy, for instance. Oh, they want you to think it's better to be shot in the head than file bankruptcy, but that's not true at all. Bankruptcy saves lives, and you know the only thing it does is your credit score. So if you're making nothing, maybe look into it. Maybe look into how you can most impactfully benefit yourself from the rules.